Hi everybody, my name is Sterling Matthew Oliver, and I'm super excited to be talking with you today about virtual theater. So last month I graduated with my bachelor's degree in theater from Kansas State University. There I was serving as the president of the student-led theater organization, and the second that our campus got shut down due to COVID-19, we began planning live readings of plays through Zoom and even a 48-hour play festival. It was a blast, but most importantly, we learned a lot about writing, directing, and performing in plays in a virtual space. Now, unfortunately, it looks like we are going to need to be doing things like this for a while longer. So I decided to put together this video of some tips, some more technical and some more creative, to try and help you with your next or with your first virtual performance. I will be joined with three friends, Ceslie Parker-Waller, Jay Cranford, and Ian Boyd-Duncan over Zoom to help showcase some of what we are going to talk about today. Now, for the people that like simple information quickly, I'm going to just throw up all of the tips that I've come up with on the screen right now. So on the screen is a full list of the tips that I'm about to run through, and you can check the description for timestamps to get to specific ones more quickly. Tips 1A through 1D are for live streaming, tips 2A through 2D are for hosting audiences in your video call, and tips 3A through 3E are more generic tips for improving the quality, no matter which method you decide to use to broadcast your show. Now, like I said, these tips are going to have a mixture of some that are more technical and some that are more creative, and I want to try to get this out as quickly and as simply as possible. So if I glaze over anything that maybe you have more questions about, please leave a comment, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. One quick note before I get into it. This was sprung on us really fast. This is not something that we need to be good at, and it's certainly forgivable if you have a few technical mishaps along the way. This is just something to tide us over until we can gather together in a physical space again. But with that in mind, I want to try and help you make the best live, while online, show that you can. So, for starters, no matter which method you decide to use to broadcast your show, you are going to be using a video call service like Zoom or Skype so that all of your actors can see and hear each other very simply and with very little delay. So we have been using Zoom, and so today I'm going to be using terms from Zoom, but most of these things can carry over into other softwares. And again, if you have questions about anything, please leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. I'm pretty well versed in most major video softwares, so hopefully I can try and help out. So let's get into it. Tip number 1A, if you can stream it, stream it. This is going to be the option that you want to use if you are performing a play that you have written and are producing, or if your theater is doing a play festival, or if you've gotten the rights to a show that's going to allow you to perform it digitally in this kind of space. YouTube Live and Facebook Live are two great and easy to use places to host your streamed performance, and you can use that in conjunction with a piece of software called OBS Studio to really give your stream an extra kick. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you can do with OBS Studio in a little bit. But if you want to set up a private stream with ticketing, a program like Dacast would be great. Dacast allows you to host events, and you only pay for the amount of storage that you actually use during the performance. And you can keep the stream behind a paywall that you can use to be your ticketing service. Now, there are plenty of other softwares that do this. Dacast was just one of my favorites from about 30 minutes of doing some Google searching. I haven't gotten to use any of these paywall services, so if you used one that you really like, please leave a comment and tell us about your experience. Tip number 1B, get a sound designer and have them stream it. This will allow you to, of course, add sound for immersion, but more than that, it's going to allow you to line the sound cues up a little bit more with what the script demands, and the quality is going to be a little bit better. If somebody is sharing their audio through a video call, there's going to be a bit of a delay, and most video call softwares don't handle audio super well, so the quality won't be as great. However, if you have a sound designer streaming the show themselves, then they can throw the cues directly into the stream as it comes through onto their computer, and the quality should be a lot better. For example, here's what would happen if you have a sound cue triggered by an actor while the designer is sharing their system sound. And then here's that exact same cue, but if that designer were to be streaming the performance themselves. Tip number 1C. This one is very simple. Moderate your chat, especially if you're using Facebook Live or YouTube Live or another public service. Moderators are the virtual front of house staff. They can ban or block people to keep out bots or trolls, and in addition, moderators can interact with the audience in the chat beforehand to keep them engaged and let them know that they are in the right place. Tip number 1D. Use a program like OBS to add some pre-show and post-show graphics to keep things interesting and to let the audience know that the stream is working if they come in a little early. You can also set up different scenes for the show itself and stage them by screen capturing each performer's feed individually, so you can precisely stage things like actors looking at each other. Often with video call software, the order of cameras on the screen can be super unpredictable and can even vary from user to user on the same call. Say you wanted two characters to look at each other. In a normal call, it could accidentally look like this. But if you capture each feed and place them just how you want, you can move the capture area if the order of the call changes, and your staging can be consistent with each actor. Here's how it looks when we force the arrangement of our performers. This also allows for characters to seamlessly enter and exit without the actor needing to be distracted by turning off their own video feed. Now onto the second set. Tip number 2A. If you can't stream it for whatever reason, I'm going to leave the legal side of things up to you, you're going to need to invite people into your video call. So these are going to be some more security-oriented tips. Tip number 2B. I would recommend using Zoom as it's simple and it's got plenty of functionality to keep unwanted people from joining your call. And if you have the budget, you can get a webinar license that allows you to kind of keep the performance side and the audience side separated so that the audience doesn't accidentally mess with the performance. But if you cannot afford the webinar license, then we move on to tip number 2C. If you're using Zoom when setting up the meeting, make sure the disable button is clicked on participant video and check mute all participants upon entry. And then in the call itself, prevent participants from unmuting themselves and add all the performers as co-hosts. Now what this is going to do is when audience members enter, Zoom is going to turn their video off and they won't be allowed to unmute their audio, but the performers still can. Now the downside is that Zoom does not allow you to permanently disable participant video, so somebody might accidentally turn theirs on. This is especially common with older patrons. Though the host and co-hosts can easily turn off somebody's video by clicking the three dots in the top right and clicking Disable Video. And try to find some similar options if you're using something that isn't Zoom. Tip number 2D. If the functionality is available, add a password to your meeting and require audiences to pre-register to get the password. Then, if you're using Zoom, make sure you've also enabled the waiting room in your meeting settings. This helps add another couple of layers to help prevent things like Zoom bombing. So now, if somebody really wants to impact your performance, they are going to have to be very intentional about it, and it's going to be extremely easy for you to mitigate it if it happens. Of course, if it's just a super small group of friends just wanting to read plays together, it would be best to just use Skype. Now on to the third set of tips. Whether you are streaming it or doing it in a video call, these are going to be some great things to consider to improve your performance as a whole. Tip number 3A. Just because we're online doesn't mean there can't be a set design. Everybody has some sort of background behind their cameras. Like here I've got my foam panels with a white wall, and it's not too different from what you'd see if I was on my webcam doing a performance. So you can work with your actors in whatever ways they're willing to help set up the backgrounds of their cameras for the show. For example, it would be great to get rid of things like posters that might not work with the era or inform the character or something like that. But if they have posters that work with the character, it might even help. It's completely up to you on a show-by-show basis. And if you're using Zoom, people with good cameras and good lighting can set up a virtual background to help establish setting or something that might add to their character. Tip number 3B. We can also pay attention to some light design. Now, we might not be able to pull off any sort of cool special effects or anything, but if you have something as simple as a desk lamp, or if you want to go all in and get a LED panel or a studio light to help add some illumination to your face, it's going to really improve the quality of your performance. You can even prop up your cell phone's flashlight, or if you have a second monitor or a laptop that you can set beside yourself, you can pull up a full screen picture of a color and turn up the brightness, and use that. There are so many different things you can use and so many ways to set them up, so I don't want to dwell on this for too long, but just remember that a little bit can go a long way, and if you decide to use virtual backgrounds, it can really help with that effect. Tip number 3C, very simple. If whatever service you're using shows a name in the video chat, have all of the actors change their name to their character's name. It's a very simple way to add immersion, so that way people know who they're looking at, and they're not distracted by thinking about the name of the actor playing the character. Tip number 3D, you can utilize an extra camera feed, or if you're streaming, you can throw up a graphic to help solidify the setting. And if you're doing it in a video call, you can use that extra camera feed to do pre-show and post-show graphics like we talked about earlier with live streaming. We do this in Zoom by having somebody, usually whoever's reading the stage directions if they exist, but you can get an extra person, to turn on their video, set up a few different virtual backgrounds with everything that the show needs, and then they cover their webcam. We would also often change the name of that feed to the title of the play, again, to assist with immersion, so that they're not sitting there seeing the tech person's name on the feed. Tip number 3E, entrances and exits. I mentioned this briefly when I was talking about streaming, but if you don't want to put that much effort in, or if you're doing it over a video call, you can have characters exit and enter super easily simply by having them turn off and on their camera feed. It's something very simple that surprisingly a lot of people don't really consider when they're setting up a virtual performance. If you do this in Zoom, it's going to be really beneficial if you tell your audience members to make sure that they have gallery view on and that they turn on the hide and on video participants feature. This isn't something that you can do for them, but if you're able to explain it to them, then that's something that's going to help with the immersion a lot, because it's going to pull away the feeds of everybody that doesn't have their video on, so there's not going to be a bunch of gray squares, and it's just going to be the people that you want talking on the screen at that time. These are just a few of the tips I was able to come up with from my experiences doing virtual performances myself over the last few weeks. If you have ideas or tips of your own, please feel free to leave a comment along with everybody leaving their questions, and let's start a discussion about it, because this is something that we get to play with so much, and it's something that can be really cool if we just take the time to really get creative with it. And if there's one thing that we are good at, I'd say it's being creative. Thank you all so much for watching. This is like my 10th attempt at doing an outro, so I'm just gonna spew out what I need to say, and if it's bad, whatever. This was my first attempt at making a video like this, and I learned a lot, and I'm super excited to keep doing projects like this. This, you might notice, is the first video on this channel. I've just started this new channel to be kind of a hub for all of my creative endeavors, whether that be for theater or for, I don't know, music, or if I when I start doing some short sketch films and stuff like that. It's all gonna go right here. So if you like what I do, or if you think you might start to like what I do, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, as right now I don't have a set upload schedule, so that's gonna be the best way to find out. Leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you didn't like it. And make sure you leave a comment, ask your questions, leave your ideas, leave everything you want. Just spew out brain stuff down there. Let's start a discussion. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.